The Last of Us is one of the most well-received shows in recent years, but when I watched it for the first time, I didn't love it, and I've even publicly criticized it before. This reminds me a lot of The Last of Us, if The Last of Us was good. But with the premiere of Season 2, I wanted to revisit the first season and see if I still feel the same way. And because these 9 episodes vary heavily in quality, I'm gonna rank them all on this tier list. So get your mushrooms out and let's start with Episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness. This is a great pilot episode and a really fat pilot episode. This thing has the runtime of 1 hour and 20 minutes. It is nearly feature length. It has ample time to properly introduce the audience to this world, the main characters, and the stakes the story will have, while also properly setting up the story for the 8 other episodes. Let's talk about the world building first. The first scene of this show is this flashback clip from the 60s, where these two science bros discuss what could potentially kill humanity. The one scientist says, "Oh, it's probably a virus or war or something like that." But then the guy from the Mummy says, "Mushrooms. Mushrooms will kill us all. You know, the Pokemon Parasect, the little bug guy who was brainwashed by a mushroom? That's gonna be us in 40 years. The cordyceps are such a scary concept for a zombie infection. People getting taken over by fungi and being turned into these monsters is freaky as hell. And this first episode has a really strong build-up towards these things taking over. There's more military presence in Austin, Texas, where the main characters live. Our main characters keep dodging anything that needs flour, like biscuits, cake, and cookies, but the neighbors are eating flour-based foods, and the grandma is geeking out in the background.
No, stop! What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
And the sheer chaos these infected cause is insane. They're causing panic in the streets, they're infecting other people, and causing freaking planes to fall from the sky. And even 20 years later, humans are still scared of these monsters. The very first scene we get after the time jump, we see the federal guards put this kid down because he's infected. These people live in complete fear of the outside world, and rightfully so, cause these zombies are freaky. Episode 1 is also great at introducing the main characters from both sides of the time skip. Before the 20-year jump, we spend a lot more time with Sarah compared to the game version. We see more of her family dynamic with Joel. She's definitely more so the one taking care of him, making him breakfast and fixing his watch and whatnot. She seems like a genuinely good person and daughter, which makes her death so much sadder. This was the most heartbreaking moment of the original game, and it's the same here. The performances of all 3 actors, the quietness of the scene, everything about it is gut-wrenching, and it's really effective at changing Joel's character. Pedro Pascal was the fan favorite choice to play this character, and I think for the most part, he really succeeded in capturing Joel's characteristics, like his southern drawl, his more jokey side, and his genuine love and care for his family. But Pascal is also great at becoming who Joel was after the death of his daughter and after the 20 years. He's a lot more rough and desensitized to the brutality of this world. He picks up a dead kid and burns him without even flinching. He's become a hardened survivor who doesn't really care for many other people anymore. This episode is a solid base for Joel's character arc this season, and he does have a couple funny lines.
I do. But I'm on Atkins.
We're also introduced to a bunch of other side characters, like Tommy, who's Joel's brother, and the two separate during the 20-year time skip. Tess, who's Joel's only friend. The two smuggle things in and out of the QZ together. Marlene, who's a leader of the Fireflies, a group that's fighting against Fedra. And most importantly, we meet Ellie, played by Bella Ramsey. A lot of people have been very critical about their performance as Ellie, and while we'll definitely talk about them more later, at least in this first episode, Ramsey was able to capture Ellie's wise-ass nature. I mean, she met Joel like 5 minutes ago, and she's already terrorizing him. And the reveal that she's immune to the infection is the perfect way to end this episode, and to lead into the huge cross-country journey these characters go on. All of them. All 3 of these characters, Joel, Ellie, and Tess, who we'll follow throughout the entire series.
Are you sure?
The last thing I'll say about episode 1, When You're Lost in the Darkness, is something that applies to the entire show. The production value is actually insane. There's a bunch of cool stuff in the pre-time jump part of the episode, like the plane crash and this shot from within the truck, but after the 20 years, every part of this world is so detailed. Everything is dilapidated and run down and looks like it hasn't been maintained at all. And the practical sets, the amount of extras, the makeup effects, and the environments are all completely believable and feel ripped right out of the game. And the cinematography was also a real standout. There's one scene where you can see all the dust in the air, and I don't know why, but it really stuck with me. Overall, The Last of Us episode 1 was a perfect pilot episode. It properly introduced the main characters and the story, it had some emotional moments, and it transported the audience to this new, crappy world. So, it's going in S tier. Huh, that was weird. I'm starting to think the show might not actually be as bad as I thought. Episode 2, Infected, is a spooky, relatively self-contained episode. The whole story is pretty much just Joel and Tess transporting Ellie from the QZ to the Capitol building, and they run into a bunch of scary stuff along the way. The highlight of this episode has to be the encounter with the Clickers. It starts with Joel, Tess, and Ellie considering going through the museum, and they're uneasy about it. Then inside, they find a dude who was torn up by a Clicker, and they're very uneasy about it. Then the ceiling falls in, making a loud noise, and the Clickers reveal themselves, and now they're fully crapping their pants. I must say, the acting here is fantastic. I haven't seen Pedro Pascal this scared since he fought the Mountain.
Say it. Say her name. Say it!
Uh-oh.
This more actiony part where the characters are fighting for their lives is exciting and visceral and oh so entertaining. And both the prosthetic and sound effects for the Clickers are top notch. These things look ripped right out of the game. There's also a new cordyceps mechanic that this show introduces. The characters see a horde of infected all clumped together and moving as one. Tess explains how the same fungus that infects these people also burrows underground for miles and creates a fungal network. If you disturb some of the cordyceps in one place, every infected will feel it and instantly know where you are. It's a frightening change made from the game. It makes the finale of the episode super intense, as this huge horde of infected know exactly where the main characters are, and they're hightailing it.
I can smell you.
Episode 2 also does a solid job at progressing the character stories, especially Joel and Tess. Tess really wants to believe that Ellie actually is immune and could potentially be used for a cure, but Joel isn't a believer and doesn't really care about any of this. He just sees Ellie as another piece of cargo. The conflict between these two characters comes to a head when Tess reveals that she was bitten. We don't really know the history between these two characters, nor what they truly meant to each other, but you can tell through their eyes how much they care for one another. And her final request for Joel is for him to deliver Ellie to the Fireflies, to save who he can save, and to bring hope to this hopeless world that they both have known. And so, he does. Tess's death is one of the things I think the show does better than the game, because for one, we actually get to see Joel and Ellie's reactions to her sacrifice, and two, her sacrifice actually means something. While she's getting fringed by the mushroom dude, she manages to blow them all up. Tess's death is incredibly important to this story, because it's the singular factor that pushes Joel to the next step of their journey. Also, Ellie is just being a big goof this episode. She's having fun in these new environments just like in the game.
You're a weird kid.
You're a weird kid.
One of the things I appreciated most about this episode is all the callbacks to that original game. Now, it's been a while since I've actually played The Last of Us, and I didn't really have time to replay it for this video, so instead I had Markiplier's old Let's Play on in the background as a refresher, so I could better spot some of the game Easter eggs, like Joel giving Tess a boost up the ledge, or Joel taking forever to reload his stupid revolver, or all the crouched sneaking, or of course, Tess missing her shots because the NPCs can't hit anything in this game. Although, to be fair, the controls were so wonky that even the players couldn't really hit anything.
No! Oh my god, no!
Overall, episode 2 Infected is a great follow-up to the premiere. It keeps the momentum of the story going, it progresses the characters in new and interesting ways, it has a ton of callbacks to the games, and it has one of the most butt-clenchingly scary moments of the entire show. It's another S-tier episode. I think I might be wrong. This show might actually be phenomenal? Episode 3, Long Long Time. This is the first of a couple episodes that don't focus on Joel and Ellie, but instead focus on a couple new characters, Bill and Frank. The vast majority of Long Long Time details their life together. In the beginning, we meet Bill, a doomsday prepper who's left alone in his small town. So he fortifies the surrounding area, makes it all nice and secure, and he's happy all by himself. Actually, the scene of him just raiding a Home Depot is unreasonably fun. I've never seen this guy so happy before, even when he got a shoe shine. But then he meets Frank, who stumbled into one of his traps like an idiot, and their relationship develops so freaking fast, because within like 2 hours, they're already a thing. It's the one part of their romance that I don't think works all that well. I get it, Bill is lonely, but he seems so cut off from the world that I don't think he would be so instantly trusting of Frank. But I guess they gotta get this episode moving along, so whatever, because we see these two over various parts of their life, like their first meeting with Joel and Tess, their fights against raiders, and them growing old together, and Frank suffering from some sort of degenerative disease. The ending to their tale is both really sad and really touching. They take a stroll around the place that they live, Bill cooks up the same turf and turf he made for Frank when they first met, and almost the entirety of this scene is played without dialogue. It lets the audience live these moments with these characters, and when they decide to go out together, it really pulls on the heartstrings. It's crazy how in this awful messed up world, these two characters kinda got to grow old together. And episode 3 wouldn't be nearly as effective without these two actors. Murray Bartlett plays Frank, and he's able to bring all that charming, kind energy to the role, which is impressive because he didn't really have anything to base the character on, because Frank wasn't really a character in the game. He was more of a Peter McCain type of character. Leave a comment if you know that reference. But Nick Offerman's Bill is the real standout. With his awkward body posture and his facial expressions, he perfectly captures this perpetually anxious recluse. And he's so good in these more emotional scenes too. Like when Frank says he wants his life to end, Offerman's performance is truly heartbreaking. And it goes without saying, but he has some of the funniest lines of the entire show.
And the government are all Nazis.
The government are all Nazis!
Bill and Frank's story is solid on its own, but it also gives Joel some character development. When we meet up with them after Tess's death, it's clear that Joel is still in mourning. He really misses his friend, and is planning on dumping Ellie with Bill and Frank as soon as he gets there. And these two have some nice scenes together, like Joel explaining how the infection spread. That scene in particular is very reminiscent of the games, where Joel and Ellie would just walk and talk. But when they finally get to Bill and Frank's and find out that they're both gone, Joel finds a note. And this one little message from Bill is super important to Joel and his character arc. Bill talks about how at the start, he was just like Joel. He hated the world, he had nothing to protect, but he eventually found that purpose in Frank. And Bill tells Joel that he also needs to find that purpose. And while Joel doesn't right away make Ellie his purpose, the note does give him the strength to tread forward and to take Ellie to his brother in Wyoming, which is a really good way to set up the other episodes. Also, Ellie being in the car for the first time is so funny. If she saw my car, she'd be all like, whoa, One Piece keychain. A common complaint people have for this episode is the fact that it tanks the pacing the first two episodes had to focus on this Bill and Frank story. And while this episode could definitely be shorter and maybe could have dedicated more time to Joel and Ellie, Bill and Frank's story directly impacts the main characters. So all in all, it doesn't feel like a waste of time. Episode 3, Long Long Time, does a good enough job at progressing the story while also delivering its own contained saga. So it's going in A tier. There's actually no way this is good, right? I could have sworn it was really bad the first time I watched it. What's going on? Episode 4, Please Hold My Hand, is a very short and kinda unremarkable episode of The Last of Us. This whole episode is pretty much just Joel and Ellie's cross-country trip, where they get attacked and stuck in Kansas City. And really the most notable thing about it is those interactions between Joel and Ellie. We get a lot of scenes of them just talking, and we can see the bond between them slowly start to form. There's one moment in particular that I thought was really neat storytelling-wise. Ellie asks Joel a really tough question about his past, and he deflects and they move on. And similarly, Joel asks Ellie a hard question about her past, and she deflects and they move on. I love that moment for Joel specifically, because it shows that he isn't ready to tell Ellie about some of the hard things he had to do, but he cares enough about her now to try and learn about her past. Also, this episode is pretty funny.
It is the sleepy time. It is the time for the sleep.
Ellie gets her joke book this episode, which leads to several priceless moments between her and Joel. Bella Ramsey is a really good comedic actor, and these more funny scenes work because of them. Also, there's a fun little B-plot where throughout the episode, Ellie is trying to make Joel laugh, and by the end, she finally does. With a diarrhea joke, no less.
The title's not entirely accurate. I didn't soil my britches at the Deftones concert. It was immediately after it on the way back.
The only other important thing this episode introduces is Kathleen, who's the leader of these Kansas City goons. In her brief conversations, we kinda understand her MO. While this city was under Fedra control, her brother was wrongfully killed in a Fedra prison, so she led an uprising, and now these people took over the QZ and the city. She's a show original character. In the game, these people are just nameless raiders, but now they have an actual leader who's a little bit unstable and looking for this dude named Henry, who of course we meet at the very end of the episode. Also, there's a bit of an infection problem underneath the city, but I'm sure that's not an issue. I'm sure it won't turn up in the next episode or anything like that. I really don't have a lot to say about episode 4. For what it is, it's a great, entertaining episode of television, but it's just not much of anything, and it's easily the most forgettable episode of this show. So, it's going in B tier. Maybe this is when the season starts going downhill? I could have sworn it was bad. Episode 5, Endure and Survive, is a fairly large episode, and potentially the best of the entire season. The story covers a lot of ground. We start off with Henry and Sam, right after Kathleen and the Resistance took over the city. We see them hide for a while and eventually run into Joel and Ellie. The two pairs agree to work together to escape from the city, and a whole bunch of crazy stuff ensues. The reason this episode is so good is Henry and Sam. We get so many scenes between these two, and fully understand the bond these brothers have. Henry at his core is a good person. Everything he does for the sake of other people. For most of this episode, he is simply trying to keep his brother safe and help him to be more brave. I mean, the scene where he gave him the Michelangelo mask is really nice.
Everybody hates me!
No, little dude. Honest.
Hold on. I hate him.
We also learn the reason why Kathleen hates him, and it's very fitting for his character. In order to get medicine for someone he cared about, Henry ratted out her brother to Fedra. Henry's only purpose in this world is to take care of and protect the ones he cares about. And Lamar Johnson is really able to capture that quality of Henry's character. Sam is kind of a scaredy cat. He's terrified of this world and doesn't really know how to be brave. Also, he's deaf in this version, which isn't the craziest change in the world, but it makes Sam have to communicate through sign language and this wax board thing, which makes for some more memorable conversation scenes, especially his scenes with Ellie, and his final scene was absolutely demoralizing. There's something so wrong about watching a young boy come to grips with the fact that he's soon going to die, and you really have to praise Kevon Woodard. It's incredible that an actor of his age was able to portray that, and the ending to these two characters is look. If you played the game or saw the show, you know how devastating it is. Sam doesn't ever get to be the brave person he wanted to be, and Henry loses his brother, his only purpose for living. There's no real way to sugarcoat it. This is just flat out the most depressing episode of the entire series. But let's now talk about the villain of this episode, Kathleen.
It is your fault.
Yeah, I know it's my fault. That's why I'm saying so.
Kathleen is a really scary villain. She's incredibly vengeful towards Henry, and even puts her own people in serious danger to try and get her revenge. But at least she gets a really fitting death. This little clicker girl just starts eating her face. The highlight of this episode has to be the action scenes. This is the most action-packed episode we've gotten. It has the sniper scene, which is my favorite part of the game, where the main characters are held down by the sniper, and Joel has to sneak around back to get him. And this leads to the epic finale to the episode, when the truck crashes into that house, and all the runners, lurkers, clickers, and the big bloater boy all come spilling out of that hole in the ground, and they start eating everyone. This whole sequence is intense, chaotic, and gorgeously done. Also, there's something really funny about all these super tough guys being all like, "Oh no, my face! Oh no, our table!" And then this guy named Perry the Platypus dies to the bloater in the same way that the bloater kills you in the game.
That's why I love Nestle Crunch.
Joel and Ellie don't have much story-wise. That is, until the very end. The deaths of Henry and Sam will heavily affect Ellie in ways we will talk about in the next few episode rankings. Episode 5, Endure and Survive, is a fantastic episode. It tells the story of these two brothers, while also delivering one of the best minor villains of the show and some flat-out amazing action sequences. This is gonna be another S-tier episode. Where the heck did that come from? I could have sworn this show was bad. I said the show was bad on this channel. Is it really possible my opinion is changing? Episode 6, Kin, is a character building episode. We pick back up with Joel and Ellie 3 months after the previous episode, and they are making their way through Wyoming trying to find Tommy. And it's ridiculous how absolutely gorgeous this part of the episode is. I mean, look at this!
It's beautiful.
But they're eventually found by Tommy's people, and the brothers have a tearful reunion. Not me though, I'm a man. And what follows is 20-ish minutes of just conversation, which could have wound up really boring, but each of these talks are riveting. Joel and Tommy have a talk where he tries to get his brother to take Ellie to the Fireflies, giving him some sort of BS explanation as to why he can't keep taking care of her. This dishonest talk between them blows up, and Joel walks away having another panic attack. We'll talk about his panic attacks in a little bit, don't worry. I mean, it was the best meme format of 2023. When you don't subscribe and hit the like button. But for real though, if you're enjoying this video, why not hit that subscribe button? Ellie spends time with Tommy's wife Maria and learns about Joel's daughter Sarah and what happened to her. And Joel and Tommy eventually have their huge emotional talk. And this scene is so important to the overall story of this series because Joel's character arc has essentially come full circle. After he lost his daughter, he pretty much just survived. Outside of Tess, Tommy, and some other people, Joel really didn't care for the world or even himself. He viewed Ellie as cargo, simple as that. But as these months have rolled by, Joel started to view Ellie as a daughter, and because of this, he reveals to Tommy the real reason why he wants him to take Ellie to the Fireflies. Joel is constantly haunted by his failures. He failed to save Tess, he failed to save Bill and Frank, and he failed to save Sarah. He's an incredibly broken man who for the first time in many years is feeling genuine fear. Fear that he can't protect one of the only people left he cares about, which is why the simple thought of Ellie in danger is giving him panic attacks. In this episode is where I want to praise Pedro Pascal, because he gives one of his most devastating performances of his career here. There's something about Pascal tears that, oh man, they hurt my soul.
I just know that when I wake up, I've lost something.
And Joel's later talk with Ellie, where he tries to tell her that she's going with Tommy, reveals a lot about Ellie. Her entire character is one of guilt. She struggles with the fact that everyone around her seems to die. And the reason she wants so badly for this cure to work is because she wants to make everyone who died along the way, like Tess, Henry, and Sam, to be worth it. And she wants Joel to be the one to take her because he's pretty much all she has left. So despite the fact that Joel believes she would be safer out there with Tommy, Ellie demands that he take her. And the two leave the Jackson community. Which I guess, yeah, does sound kind of crazy because they do have a movie theater, but they're watching The Goodbye Girl, so yeah, I'd probably leave too. Now, if they're watching The Wicker Man, I'd stay for that. That's classic cinema right there.
What is it? What's wrong, sister?
The rest of the episode is their travel to and their arrival at the university, and these scenes are fun. It's heartwarming to see their father-daughter bond form, although I will say, I think this stuff being tacked onto this episode feels kinda off, because these two parts feel like they should be their own distinct episodes. Also, sadly, Joel proves himself right. They get attacked by goons at the university, and Joel is impaled by a baseball bat handle. This is one part of the show I much prefer in the video games. Joel falling from the second story onto a piece of rebar feels more dramatic. Oh, that was a wicked voice crack there. Joel falling from the second story onto a piece of rebar feels more dramatic. It has more weight to it. I mean, Game Joel could heal the TV show injury with a medkit. Easy. But despite its ending, I still think episode 6, Kin, is a darn good episode, if only for how well written these characters are, and for Pedro Pascal's performance. So, it's going in A tier. I seriously don't know what's happening. Your opinions on shows and movies aren't supposed to change? Why am I enjoying this? Episode 7, Left Behind, is the one episode from this season where I'm like, yeah, that was kinda unnecessary. We pick back up with Joel and Ellie after his injury, and she's trying her hardest to keep him alive. And then we get a flashback to Ellie's time as a Fedra student, and this is the entire episode. Surprise, surprise. Episode 7, Left Behind, is pretty much just an adaptation of the Left Behind DLC from the original game. Ellie and her friend Riley sneak out to go to an abandoned mall. This whole sequence is honestly a ton of fun. They play on the escalator, ride the merry-go-round, play Mortal Kombat 2, and dance with some funny masks on. It's a good time all around. Except for the whole, you know, infected attack and getting bit part. That's not so fun.
Oh my god, this is so sad. Alexa, play Despacito.
The whole purpose of this sequence to the greater story was to give an explanation about why Ellie so badly wanted her immunity to mean something. People like Riley, Tess, and Sam all died around her from this infection, and yet she lives on. This flashback was supposed to explain Ellie's actions in the modern day, and why she's trying so hard to save Joel, even though he keeps pushing her away to save herself. But the problem is, we already knew all of this. With her big talk with Joel in the previous episode, we completely understand what's driving her. And it's not like Riley was some sort of unknown part of Ellie's past. She was hinted at a couple times throughout the show. We can put 2 and 2 together. So this entire sequence, while both entertaining and well written, does sort of feel like a waste of time. Outside of the details about who Riley was and what she meant to Ellie, this episode adds nothing new. I think this flashback would have been better if it was shorter and put in episode 6. That way, episode 6 would have had a ton of character development for both of our main characters. But still, I don't have a ton to say about episode 7, Left Behind, because while it can be really funny at times...
Is it tacos?
You're my friend now. We're having soft tacos later.
It doesn't really offer much in terms of story or development. It just really feels redundant. So, it's going in C tier. Okay, yeah, that episode wasn't the best, but I'm still starting to actually get excited for the final 2 episodes. What is happening to me? Episode 8, When We Are in Need, is the penultimate episode of the season. And this is a super intense episode because this is the highest the stakes have ever been. Joel is completely out of commission, and his wound looks like his face in Game of Thrones. And I'm pretty sure I can't show either because YouTube doesn't like gore. So here's a crushed watermelon instead. It pretty much looks the same. And Ellie is being hunted down by a group of cannibals, the same ones they encountered in episode 8. And speaking of those cannibals, let's talk about their leader, David. David is pretty different from the game version in many ways, and dare I say, he is the best villain of the series. If only because he is flat out the most evil and sinister. David is the leader of this group and also its priest. He manipulates these people through their faith and forces them all to follow his version of religion. And he uses his own personal faith and viewpoint as a way to justify all the terrible things he does, like openly smacking members of his congregation, feeding said congregation human beings without them knowing, risking these people to go get petty revenge, and yes, sadly, attempting to make Ellie his,
Moving pretty quick there. Why don't you have a seat right over there? Okay.
Yeah, this guy's terrible in every single way imaginable. But at least he gets a very deserving death. After mentally and physically attacking Ellie, she gets the upper hand and chops him up into little bits. And it was freaking therapeutic. But while the character is awful, the actor is not. Scott Shepherd is able to capture every little detail of David's gross character. He's able to convey so much intimidation through little looks and glances. And at the end, when he becomes pretty much just a full-on villain, he's perfectly sinister. And while we're on the subject of casting, there's another member of David's little group. James is played by Troy Baker, who you might know as Joel from The Last of Us. Yeah, look at this. It's old Joel and new Ellie interacting with one another. How fun is that? Oh no! What the hell? Someone I really want to praise in this episode is Bella Ramsey as Ellie. All throughout the series, I was kinda uncertain of their performance. They exceeded in the more jokey scenes that the character is known for, but I was worried that Ramsey wouldn't be as good in the more emotional, impactful moments. But I was proven wrong. Ellie was put through the ringer this episode, and Bella Ramsey was able to sell every teary-eyed, rage-filled, trauma-induced moment of it. This one line delivery in particular was just, mwah. Chef's kiss.
Tell them that Ellie is a little girl who broke her finger!
Joel is in this episode too. He's not put in the same dangers as Ellie, but he has a bunch of cool moments where he takes out the goons and fights to get his girl back. Also, the sound he forces this guy's need to make is diabolical. But the one part of the episode I didn't like was its ending. When Joel finally finds Ellie, wraps her in his arms, and lets her know that everything is going to be okay now, I didn't really feel much. In the games, this is the moment of the entire story. It's the moment that solidified Joel as Ellie's newfound father, and Ellie as Joel's newfound daughter. That scene in the game never fails to make me teary-eyed. I mean, look at Markiplier. Even he's struggling to hold it together. But in the show, it doesn't feel quite as impactful. It feels rushed and awkward, and all the camera cuts ruin the emotional payoff. I was so disappointed when I saw this show's version of this scene that I'm dropping it a whole tier. But still, episode 8, When We Are in Need, is a darn good episode. It's filled with really intense moments, some emotional heights, and it's a really great episode to lead into the season finale. So, it's going in A tier. Can it really be? Was I wrong to say The Last of Us was bad? Am I really changing my opinions on this series and starting to think it's actually amazing? There's only one way to find out. It's time to take a look at Episode 9, Look for the Light. This is a complete mess in the best ways possible. And to thoroughly talk about everything, I'm going to cover this episode in chronological order. In the very beginning, we get Ellie's origin story. Her mom, who's going into labor, is attacked by an infected, and right at the moment that Ellie was born, she was bit. So I guess that causes the immunity? I don't know how that works, but oh well. This is a nice addition to the story that gives Marlene some more development. These two were lifelong friends, and before she dies, Ellie's mom tasks Marlene with taking care of her. Also, Ellie's mom was played by Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the game. Is it kind of odd that old Ellie gives birth to new Ellie? Yeah, but it's still a cool cameo. And while we're on cameos, I also found out that one of these nurses from the end of the episode is played by Laura Bailey, who played Abby in The Last of Us Part 2. But these two characters are completely different. Like, I'm pretty sure this nurse doesn't play golf. In the modern day, we get some nice scenes between Joel and Ellie. They find ravioli, they see giraffes, they make plans for the future, but they also have a couple moments that fully solidify their character arcs. Joel tells Ellie that they can turn back if she wants. They don't need to go through with this, but she stands firm that she needs her immunity to be worth it, for every other single person who died around her to be worth it. Later, Joel explains how he got that self-inflicted scar on his head, and though he doesn't outright say it, he makes it clear that he views Ellie as a daughter, and she helped him heal from losing Sarah. And there's one line from this scene that completely wrecked me. During my viewing of the entire show, I didn't cry once. Not when Sarah died, or when Bill and Frank died, or even when Henry and Sam died. But this one line, man, it got me.
So time heals all wounds, I guess.
It wasn't time that did it.
That's maybe the best line of the entire series. But they're found by the Fireflies, and Marlene tells Joel that they think they can make a cure with Ellie's brain, so they're planning on taking it. Which, you know, makes Joel just a teensy bit upset. Joel pulling the biggest 1v50 of all time and killing every single Firefly he sees is a super controversial aspect of this series, because there are a lot of different perspectives and there's really no clear right or wrong answer. The Fireflies and Marlene are not the heroes of this story. She's willing to kill the girl she was sworn to protect because she thinks that they could create a cure, and even if they did make one, there's no way they'd realistically be able to distribute it because there are so few of them left. I mean, Joel flat out takes out almost all of them by himself. Also, Joel is kinda in the right. He's stopping them from harming Ellie because they were going to do it without her even knowing. A big problem with this whole event is that no one is asking Ellie what she wants. They both assume that Ellie would want to die for the cure, but they don't actually know for certain. Marlene was wrong to try to do the surgery without telling Ellie, and Joel was wrong to dispose of all the Fireflies and not tell Ellie what actually happened afterwards. Overall, I really like this season finale. It's not a clear-cut ending, it really makes you think. I mean, I'm certainly not the smartest person in the world, so I'm sure a ton of you have your own viewpoints on this ending, but there's a ton of tension between Joel and Ellie now, and that is the perfect setup for season 2. But throughout this video, I wondered if my opinion on The Last of Us was truly changing. For the longest time, I didn't like this show. I thought it was directionless, hollow, and a shallow imitation of one of the best games of the last decade, but my opinion has changed. I've come around to this series. I now see the light. I can say that I love The Last of Us, and I'm putting the final episode in S tier. And that's The Last of Us ranking. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If this video does well enough, I can do a ranking for season 2, although I don't know when I would actually do it because I have other stuff planned for May. I also tried out having a story in this video, so let me know what you think about that. But that's all. Bye.